Okay, so now that I've got some different objects in the scene, I'll go through materials and particularly material assignment. So I've got a camera view there that I'll use in a moment to show some rendering. So maybe I'll go over camera views again just quickly. So on the quick access toolbar, I'm sure you know you've got the down arrow next to the house there, and here we are. Then you can choose camera, and so the camera I just showed you will simply place somewhere about here, and then looking towards the front. So there we are. And so you'll need something like that usually when you start to assign materials, because you'll often want to render them to see the way the material looks when it's fully rendered. So I've got that view ready to go, and then I'm going to also go down to my 3D views and just open up the default 3D view, and you can see all those different furniture pieces there. So I'm going to start with the floor actually, so I'm zooming out there just so I can see the edge of the floor that I want to select. And I might just remind you there, if you have issues selecting a floor like this, which is underneath your walls, remember you can always move your cursor to the point you think the floor should be, and then if it doesn't come up, press Tab, and then just keep cycling by pressing Tab until the thing you want comes up, or give up, because you can see there it's not giving me the floor because my cursor is just slightly in the wrong spot, so I'm going to move it a little bit, and then again as I press Tab you can see it cycles to find the floor. So I've selected that, and you'll see then that with things like floors you have to go to Edit Type and then click Edit next to Structure to see the material. So it may initially be set to by category, and so that's still the material assignment. So if you see that, that still is where you're going to assign the material. I'm going to cancel this though and just show you a wall. So if I select the wall there and go to Edit Type, and then again click Edit next to Structure, you can see it works the same way, but here this one has a material already assigned called Finish, and that's okay as well. We can still change that, but again you just need to know that's the place you assign the materials. So I'll go back to the floor now, and again Edit Type to go back to where I was, and again Edit next to Structure. It's going to make that a bit smaller and just show you as well, if you click the preview button down the bottom, it can help if you want to see what the material looks like, especially when it's in a cut view or a section. But again, to modify it, I've got to click Edit there next to Structure, and I can click on that material slot no matter what it says, and then you'll see Browse button should come up. So the Browse button is the one with the dots on it. That always means browse in Windows especially. So here I'm going to click on that button, and that finally gets me to the material browser. So this is where you're trying to get to whenever you're trying to assign materials. And so starting with the list on the left, you can see that you have all of these materials. Well, I'll just ask you, where do you think these materials live, or where do you think they're stored? How's it getting this list? Yeah, you'd think so actually, yeah, because it looks like a library, but this is actually from the project. So these are the local materials stored in this particular file that I've got open. So it's actually not a big deal if you delete materials from here. There's still the main library that you can't actually modify. So don't be afraid to delete things, because you can always bring up the main library. This button here will do that, and it's down here. And it's locked, you cannot change that. So all of the things in the library will always be there in this Home tab. If you expand it, you'll see all the different preset library materials. Okay, and so that's often a good starting point. If you need to make a new material, you can go down there. So that's what I'm going to do. I want a new timber material, so I'm going to go to flooring, and then you can see there we should have, we've only got bamboo actually, which is not what I want, so this is the Autodesk Materials folder. I'm going to minimize that and then expand the AEC materials and go to flooring there, and you can see it's got a slightly different set of materials. Also, if you go down to wood, you can see we've got some other flooring materials for wood flooring. So I'm going to choose this wood flooring material and just click on the up arrow, and that puts it from the library into the project. So this list is the library, this list up here is the project. And again, clicking on the button at the top next to the button with your view options, that button there that looks like a rectangle hides the library panel. So I've got my wood flooring material, but now I'm going to show you how to modify it. So on the graphics tab, you'll have the basic colour for shading, and you'll see quite often you can use this option here, use render appearance, to pick up the colour from something you could do later. But it's also good to know how to just choose the colour directly by clicking on that colour swatch, and you can choose any colour using this colour picker. I think it's around 30 million colours that you can get possibly from here, so there's no colour you can't get, but sometimes you have to maybe play around a little bit by picking up here and then adjusting the brightness on the right. So if you have a red, green, blue value, sometimes that'll be easier if you're trying to get a colour from another program. Also, the Pantone Colors are good. So these are pre-made colours, and if you click there, you've got a huge library of colours, and these are all industry standard colours as well. So I might just get a colour for flooring. There we go, that'll do. And of course you've got the basic colours over here, so it's fine to use those as well. But if you've got a colour that you use a lot, you can also add it to the slots here, just clicking the add button, and then it'll go into the custom colours. So there we are, so it's just gone in there. I'm going to click OK, and that's on the shading colour. I'm just going to then do the surface pattern. So clicking on where it says none, next to pattern, obviously for surface pattern again. And the general rule of thumb with surface patterns is that you choose model every time. So, well, you can use drafting, it's an option, but you probably find that it's not necessary. So again, as a rule of thumb, model for drafting patterns, or sorry, for surface patterns I mean, and then you'll see that they are pictorial, or they're representations of the material or the way it looks. So if it's timber flooring, often you just need parallel lines in a more graphical view, which is what we're setting up here. This is the graphics tab. So either horizontal parallel lines or vertical parallel lines, which you have here as well. And if you haven't got the spacing you want, here I've got 75mm vertical, I might want, let's say, 100mm vertical. So you can click the new button and put in your own spacing. It's really simple, you can't do complex patterns this way. All it gives you is the option to set an angle. So there I'll make it, let's make it 90, since I want it vertical. So it's giving me parallel vertical lines, and then I can set a spacing. The only other option is to do a crosshatch, in which case you can give a spacing in the other direction, which can be different to the first one. Okay, but I don't want crosshatch, I only need single parallel lines, so I'll just put it back to parallel, and then again the angle and the spacing. So it's just like the hatching that you'll often draw. You can do more complex patterns using the custom option, but you need a file for that. So you need to load in pattern files, which we'll look at later. So for now, I just want that simple pattern. You can see that's gone into the list. It's called new pattern name because I forgot to give it a name, but I can always click edit now and change that name. So we'll call it vertical 100 mil. And there we are. So that's the surface pattern. That's what we'll see from the outside. The cut pattern, in this case, isn't important. I'm assuming for this project you don't really need construction details, so you can sometimes just keep that as a fairly generic either plain pattern or leave it blank. Just leave that on none. Now I'm going to go to the Appearance tab, and this is where you set up the material for rendering. So you can see there it's got this image or a photo of the timber flooring. It's been added into the material. This is the file name down below. So you can easily click on that file name and it'll show you the folder where that file lives, and you can choose any of the others. So if you want to use different timber, just double click on one of those others. Maybe this one might do, just so it looks really different. Okay, so you can see that's changed, and it's got a bit of brightness, so it's a little bit brighter than the original. You can see up there, but you can easily. So I just clicked on the image thumbnail there to bring up the texture editor, and then you can change the brightness there. You can see there in the preview that's changing, and you can change other things like the size. And so probably that's the main option that you want to look at first here, because you will often need to change the size of your materials. So a good way of working it out, especially if it's a real world material, is to work out how big it would be in the real world. So this is obviously a photo of floorboards. So if I count those, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 floorboards between the points it's measuring there. So 16 floorboards, if they're 100 mil, which is what I said they were before, that makes 1600 mil. So at the moment it's too small, it's 685, which is way too small. I can just type in 1600 there, and then I know that each board will be 100 mil in my scene. So again, if it's bricks, you can again just work out the size of a brick and multiply that by the number of bricks you see in your image. So again, think in real world sizes, and you should be able to work out the size for all your materials. Bit of a trick though is to oversize them. Sometimes people even make things double or triple the size of the material in the real world, just as a graphical effect, and that can work really well sometimes for the sorts of presentations you do. But at first maybe you can start off with the real world size. So that's done, and so this is the base image, but you should also check the relief pattern, which you can see down below is ticked. So anything that's ticked there, you should have a look at that option just clicking on the black arrow. And you can see here it's actually got the option based on wood grain, so I don't need to change anything there. It's already linked to the image above. But I might just show you quickly a different one that I know up here. The masonry material should be different. Here we are. Okay, so this masonry material, or brickwork, you'll see has an image for the relief pattern. So if you see that, you just need to check the size for both. So you'll see here this image, which gives you the colours of the bricks, has a size, but so does the relief pattern. So if you're not sure what this does, but it's pretty clever, I think. I mean, this technology's been around for about 20 years, but it's still pretty impressive, I think. Basically, they use black to make the surface low and white to make it high, and then anything in between. And it is a 3D effect, so when it renders, it'll cast shadows in between the brick courses as though it's 3D. So that's what the relief pattern does. And so when you're working with these render or appearance materials, have a look at those different options that you have, and not just the panel at the top, which gives you the colours. And we'll go further into that over time, but definitely it's good if you can start to work through those different options that you have for your appearance materials, and start to realise as well that the appearance is really a sub-material within your main material. So wood flooring is my main material, but you can see up here under appearance, the appearance part of this is called Beechwood Galliano, and so you can adjust that separately. So that's probably enough for the floor material. I'm going to click OK, and then you can see the colour there that I set in shading has come up. I'll click OK again and again, and you can see then that the floor's changed that I selected, but so's the floor out here. So why has that happened, do you think? No, they're separate floors. So this here is the floor on the inside, and then I've got another one out here, and then also this one's separate as well. Exactly, that's right. So I didn't duplicate the floor, and I did that just to show you what happens. So if you go to assign materials, you'll often find yourself just duplicating out of habit, but you may not need to. So in this case, the floor is generic 150 mil. I'm going to go to Edit Type now, and I will duplicate it, and we'll call that timber over concrete. Click OK, and then if I click Edit again next to Structure, we can see the material, wood flooring, and I'll go and then insert a new layer, move it down, and change the thickness to 100 mil should be fine. And then I'll change the thickness of the flooring layer to 50. So it's still going to be 150 mil altogether, but now I've got the wood layer on top of the layer below. Now, the material there is set to by category. You can choose a concrete material for these lower layers if you want to, but you may not even see it. But I might just go and choose one of the pre-made concrete materials that are in there. Just change there. So now if I click OK though, and then OK again, I'm still not going to see a change because the wood is still on the top. But you can see now if I select this floor, it's called timber over concrete. If I select one of the others, it's still called generic 150 mil, as is this one. So they can be managed as a group. And again, if I go to Edit Type this time, without going to duplicate, if I go to change that, it's got the wood flooring material still, but I can just change that now back to maybe concrete. That'll do. And now you can see this floor and the other one that was generic 150 mil have both changed. But the timber floor that I made by duplicating hasn't been affected. So I'll just show you the same thing again, maybe with a wall. So I've got some interior walls here, and maybe I want the back wall to have a different colour to the rest. So firstly, I'm just going to show you one little modelling trick so that I can have this wall split. You can see that it goes all the way along the back. So I'll go into Plan, just so I can see that more clearly. So I want the material to only go up to the corner here. I don't want the new colour to go all the way along this wall. So I'm going to use Split Element, which is in the you have to go to the Modify tab, and then it's in the group of the 9 smaller buttons you've got on the modifier panel there. It's the first button in that group of 9 in the top left corner. So you probably know that one, but if you don't, make sure you remember that. It's really important. Again, so when you click split element there, and you can then hover before you click anywhere just to make sure you're getting the right object. So you can see there, as I move the cursor, it's bringing up the centre lines of these different walls, and I'm making sure I get the centre line for the vertical wall there, and I'm going to come down and try to get the centre, or that point, lined up with where the centre of this wall coming across would be. So that's the point where I want to split it. I've clicked, that should have split. I'm going to just right click a couple of times to cancel, and now just check to see if I select that wall, then it is stopping there. So that can make it a lot easier to assign materials. The ability is to split up your walls. Now I'll go back to the 3D view, and again I can select the wall there. So this time again I'll go to edit type, but it's really good if you do remember to duplicate. So here, that's what I'll do first. It's called generic 200mm wall. So when I click duplicate, I'll give it a better name, and I'll call this 200mm feature wall. So now I'm going to edit the structure, and I'm just going to change that finish material by clicking browse. And this time I'm going to make a material by copying one that I already have. So before I made a brand new material, remember, by bringing up the main library. But this time I'm going to start with this finish material. It's actually a really good option if you just want a plain colour. So by right clicking on finish, I can go to duplicate to copy the material. I'm going to call that paint red. And then now I'm going to go straight to the appearance tab. I don't need to do much on the graphics tab here. And you can see then that it's got a paint finish already, but there's a problem. You always need to look at this little hand symbol and see if there's a number above it. If you see a number there, you should normally right-click on the Appearance tab and then either replace or duplicate, because that number is telling you that other materials in the list are linked to this appearance. So if you change this colour without doing this step, other materials are going to change. So just force yourself to remember that, even if you're not sure why. Again, either duplicate or replace. In this case, I just want to copy this material so that I can change it. So I'm going to choose duplicate. And then I can simply click on the colour swatch there to change it to the red colour that I want. So I want sort of an Indian red, so I'm going to just pick that from here. There we go, it's about right, a bit darker maybe. That'll do. So I've done the colour, and actually that's a bit too dark on the projector. It's funny, the colours on the projector are totally different to what I've got on the screen here. So notice how also this material, or the Appearance tab, looks different to what I had before. It's not always going to be the same. So I'll show you the timber one quickly. So wood flooring, it actually is called wood, and that's why it has these options. So that's a type of material. And so again, going back to my paint red material, it is a wall paint material. So it again has slightly different options. And that's a good thing. You can then choose options that relate to wall paint, like the type of, or the way it's applied. Okay, so I've chosen those options, and now, before I finish though, I'm going to go back to the Graphics tab, and this time tick that use the render appearance option to pick up the colour or match the colour that I've chosen in the appearance tab. If you want to then adjust that colour further, you'll see that you can't click on that colour swatch until you turn that option off again. But it'll keep the colour, so I can turn the option off, and then I could click on that and adjust the colour further. Okay, so now they're slightly different. So I'm going to click OK, and OK, and OK. I can't see the colour just because the wall's selected. One of those annoying things. I wish they'd fix this actually, but if you click to one side to deselect it, you should see then clearly the colours assigned. And there I just want to show you it's on realistic, so that's using the colour that I had on the appearance tab. If I go to shaded, it'll have that slightly different red that I chose on the shading tab. So for walls and floors, and you'll see later ceilings as well, you assign materials in virtually the same way, but then components that you've loaded, like furniture that I was showing you before, so all of these pieces here, the chairs and the tables, are a little bit different. If you click Edit Type, you won't see the same options, but you'll sometimes see a material option you can choose here. Here, there aren't any, so I'll cancel that. Also, you'll sometimes find the materials in Properties over here. So here you can see this is where the materials are. And it can be set up either way. You'll see there are reasons that it'll be in one place or the other. So there it's got top finish and base finish, and I can simply browse there to assign materials from the material browser, the same as you do for walls and floors. So the top finish there, maybe I'll just choose a laminate, and again I can change the colour, but I'll leave that linen for now. And you can see then it's got the base finish, which will be the legs. So there it's got, well, it's already got chrome, that's what I wanted anyway, but I could always choose a different one. Maybe even stainless. So that's if it's set up properly, and you'll see most families should be set up so that it is either in Properties here, scrolling down you can see for this one it's not, but if I go to Edit Type, then most likely it'll be here. So you can see it's got the materials and finish, and it's got an option there. Now this is where you'll sometimes see there are issues. So even in the material option, I can't do anything there. It's all down to the person who made the family, and they're all made by different people. So if you don't get the material option either in Properties or by clicking Edit Type, then worst case you have to go to Edit Family, and you can choose the materials that way. But I might go over that in more detail later. Just wanted you to know it's always an option. You can always set materials, but sometimes you need to do a bit more setup. So here, show you very quickly in case you need to do this straight away. I can select that object, and you can see over here is where the material gets assigned. Right, so it's got the granite material. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to cancel this, and then instead just close this file. So this is the furniture family that that reception desk has come from. To close it, usually the easiest option is to go to the main menu and choose Close, and that should take you back to the project file. So finally, just to finish up with that info on materials, I'm going to go to the camera view I made, and then just do a quick render. So bringing up the, or using the teapot there to bring up the render dialog, and I'm going to set it to at least medium, and leave the resolution on screen. Click render. So at this stage, because I don't have a ceiling, I should get a fair amount of light in the space, and get a reasonable idea how those materials are looking. And there we are. So you can see the timber material on the floor there, on the desk, the granite. I didn't change that, but that's what it had. The columns already had a concrete material, and we can see again the laminate just on the coffee table, or the other one there. So, so maybe just to finish up quickly there, I can test that out usually by assigning materials here, but watch out if you've used that array option, you'll see that things that are in a group, here you can see it's an array group, can't be edited in perspective. So just watch out for that. If you can't get to an option in perspective, you can change it to any other view, even another 3D view, as long as it's not a camera view. And now you can see if I select that, that shelf, it gives me the option to edit the group, and then I can select it normally, and you can see then here's the material setting, so I could change that, and maybe I'll just change that to one of the other timber materials I've already got there. So then I can finish the group, and they should all update, not the ones on the back, but the ones on the front. They're all part of the group. The ones on the back are a different group. So now, back in the perspective view, and if I go to render, I should see that material change. It's going a bit slower this time for some reason, but there we are. And, well, actually, while that's happening, if you see a message like this, don't worry too much. It means there's a missing image. So, as I was showing you, these materials all use, or often use, images or photos of the material, and sometimes you can't find those. So here it's telling me that there is an image in one of the materials that it can't find, but I can see all the ones that I set myself, so I'm not that worried about the one here that it can't find. If I can't tell, it's not a problem. You can see here the shelf unit definitely has changed. Again, I'll give you a bit of time to get some materials assigned, and just make sure you can assign materials to the objects that you need to. And again, later we'll look at assigning materials in families using parameters and some of those other options that you need.